first phase of the report that is guiding us onto the work that we have managed to put together so far. Just to go back, colleagues will recall that this matter was referred to the committee on the 15th of June 2017 via the Office of the House Chair to investigate matters that were in the public domain, in particular informed by the email leaks that we saw in the public space, which the organization dealing with outer at some point made a submission to Parliament to request Parliament's attention to look at such matters. Now, from that phase one of our engagement, there's been an engagement with the Department of Home Affairs in and out with regard to documentation that were requested to be submitted. Out of those documentations that were submitted, engagement again with both the former Director General and the Minister of Home Affairs, the current Minister of Home Affairs, Minister Malusi Gigaba. The reason that we meeting this morning is to now deal with the discrepancies that we identify during the engagement between the department and ourselves. Now, these discrepancies that are identified, we have put them in a question form, which in our report, if you look at the report, we have asked a number of questions that were referred back to the department based on their response. And the document that has been presented by the department, the response of the department then led to this meeting today. Now, the program of engagement and those that are going to be engaged in this phase two of our inquiry into the naturalization of the Gupta families and their associates. It's starting today, as agreed that 8:30 we'll start with the meeting. We'll first receive a presentation from outer because I will take it that around the issues of email, that will be the relevant people to guide us into the status and their findings into those emails. We will then invite the MEC for education in the Northwest. The reason that we're inviting the MEC in the Northwest is in our engagement with the department, part of the reason that early naturalization of the Gupta family, one of the Gupta brothers' family, was because there's been a donation again that was made to schools in the Northwest. Colleagues will recall that we dispatched a team that went to the Northwest to verify such donation or social responsibility that was claimed. At the same time, being aware that it was not within the requirement of the law that for you to get the naturalization, you'll have to donate something to schools. But we are doing it because it was cited as one of the reasons that early naturalization was granted. We did not get much joy in our engagement with the schools there, and I think the report speaks to itself around our findings. We then resolved that what will be important will be to invite the MEC of the Northwest to come and confirm if there's any knowledge of these donations or any relationship between the Department of Education in the Northwest and the Gupta-related companies. So we'll then have the MEC together with HOD of the Department of Sports, Arts, Education, Sports in the Northwest. Now, yesterday in our engagement, colleagues, after we have agreed on the format of the process that we'll engage on, together with the committee section as we're preparing to look at the program and the sequence of issues, how we want the issues to be followed, was that we agree that because from the beginning of the entry into the country, you'll then have the Department of Home Affairs, in particular, the immigration section of the department. Bearing in mind that we have now taken a decision that the inquiry will not be only around naturalization, but as to when did the Gupta family, and families in fact, arrive in the country. So it takes us back to 1993, where we are sitting now. So we are going to be dealing with from the first person that entered the country in 1993. You'll know that in the report, there are a number of people that we have listed as part of the political leadership that was in charge during this Gupta entry into the country, to a point that we have now added where is that minister that I said he must be here? Where is it? Now, what we have done, we have added another name of the Minister of Home Affairs then during the National Party regime, who happened to be Danny Skete. He was the Minister of Home Affairs when the first entry of the Gupta family member entered into the country. That's how far we've gone with regard to digging into the first person that entered the country from the Gupta family. Now we then decided that Home Affairs, a Deputy Director General responsible for immigration, will be the third person to speak, so that we are able to follow the sequence of the engagement. He will be the fourth person to speak. The fifth person, it will then be civic services. Because you look at how Home Affairs operate, is that you'll first get the permit, which is immigration. When you deal with issues of citizenship, you go to civic services. Now, under civic services, during the application, in fact, of the late early naturalization, it was under Mr. Mukhize, who was in charge of the civic services. He's now the Director General in the Department of, I think it's Arts and Culture. We have invited him to appear before this committee today to explain his knowledge around the activities of the early naturalization, because that's where it starts. Now, under civic services, you then establish what you now call the adjudication committee. Is the one that then deals with to adjudicate that early naturalization process. And where we are sitting now, we know that it was convened under Mr. Richard Skakani and his team, and we have therefore taken a decision to invite that particular adjudication committee to share with us their knowledge and understanding of the issues that they dealt with. There may have been other adjudication committees as you deal with the family, because you're dealing with almost 3 families there, but from within the 3 brothers of what we call the Gupta brothers. So we'll then get to know other processes that were followed, because where we are sitting we'll take it that those that are naturalized are now South Africans. And I'll take it that, well, let me not come to that conclusion now because it may create some kind of a national crisis if I were to raise it now, but we'll deal with it later. When we deal with the issue of the adjudication committee, if you refer back to the document in our position, colleagues, you'll know that it makes its finding. After making its finding, the family then applied, they made an appeal to the minister. And that's where now the Minister of Home Affairs then comes in. We'll have him, in fact, somewhere at the bottom of the program, but I'll tell you at what point we'll come to him. In our engagement, when we now deal with associates, we then pick up that there are two individuals who are very central in the facilitation of visas, in particular from India and within the High Commissioner offices in Delhi, who are employed by Home Affairs. We have identified them as Major Kubisa Kobese. And then we have a gentleman again called Gideon Christian. Now, these two individuals who have invited them to be here. They are very central when we now deal with issues of associates. You'll know that the inquiry does not only deal with the family, but we have expanded to deal with associates. So these two individuals are very critical around the issue of visas, permits, and all of these things. You'll see when we get to that point. I think colleagues where we are sitting, we are fully aware of those activities which were performed by, in particular, the two individuals and how they were appointed to go and serve in the embassy in India. It's something that I think members of the committee are aware of, and we'll have to get confirmation around those issues. There's a person who happened to be the CEO of Sahara Computers. And this person is by the name of Ashu Chwala. Ashu Chwala is a person who has been interacting more with two individuals that I've just made mention of. In particular, one individual that I've made mention of, Mr. Christian. Chwala then becomes very central because this becomes a person that then facilitates and call for all this kind of visas that he wants. I will not want to deal with it now, but we'll get to know as we get to that point. Now, the committee has tried to get hold of Mr. Chwala. For quite some time, we have sent emails, we have tried to track him down. But where we are sitting, we are now informed that he's a South African. He was naturalized almost 17 years ago. We have to track him down. We tried to track him down, we can't get him. Now that because he's a South African, and we know that he's either in the country or outside the country, we don't know, we don't know. We have to find him. By the end of this inquiry, that person becomes very important for Parliament to understand his activities and his involvement with the officials of the department. Now, the only option to do will be either to issue out a summon and instruct the police to look for him. There's no other way. If we cannot find him, the only way is to issue out a summon and ask South African police to go and look for him and find him. I'm not saying he's a criminal, but those are the only people, or the sheriff, maybe we ask the sheriff, but we'll come to that point maybe when we discuss his item in the program. We'll have to decide, therefore, maybe the approach that we can take. Maybe mine will be a very hostile one, but maybe colleagues will have a better approach that you may want to take. But you need that person. That person must appear before this inquiry. He must tell us of his activities with the officials of Home Affairs. Then I'm now dealing with the second day, which is supposed to be tomorrow, right? That's what we expected Chwala to come in. Yeah, we'll go to details with that one tomorrow. Thank you very much. Then we have, we're not going to have we'll then have the former Director General of Home Affairs, Mr. Apleni. And you know that the up and downs that have happened between the committee and Apleni is more conversant with the issues. And in particular, when the last naturalization happened, Mr. Apleni was in the reins then. So it's very important that we really get this side of the story. We have had this side of the story, by the way, before, through the exchange of documents and all of that. But this time around, anyone that we are going to be engaging with is going to be speaking with us under oath. Everyone is going to take an oath, nothing else but the truth that we want now. We have stacks and stacks of documents. We have questions that need clarity. The decision that we have taken as a committee is that we're going to have them under oath. And then there are consequences, obvious, if someone will lie under oath, therefore. So we'll then have, I think the issue that will have to be engaged between Minister Malusi Gigaba and the Director General, because those will be the remaining people that we'll have to have. So yesterday in our engagement, it was around who's going to be doing the presentation, but we will need the minister at the end of the day to be the one that will then speak to us. And the part mostly that we are going to deal with when we deal with the minister is going to be around the level of receiving the appeal and signing the naturalization. After it was rejected at the level of the adjudication committee, he sent it back, and then they then appeal. That phase is a phase that will have to be unbundled proper for us to understand in detail, right? So that's where we're going to expect Minister Malusi to take us through after the adjudication, the appeal, and the sign and the naturalization, and the early naturalization come in. Now, for record, that all of us have now, because I don't want to create confusion so that people don't know what happened. What we know is that both the mother and the wife of, is that Atul? AJ Gupta did not qualify for the reason of specified by the law that they were out of the Republic for more than 90 days. At the same time then, what we then find is that the approval is now done of the early naturalization to all of them, except Atul himself. AJ, who then refused to renounce his Indian citizenship. So they've applied as a family, and then they were rejected, and then they were then approved, and then AJ then refused to renounce his Indian citizenship. As you know that the arrangement obvious with the two countries, India does not accept dual citizenship. So it's something that will have to be taken through in detail around that particular area of one of the members of the group as a family refusing to renounce his Indian citizenship. So on that note, that is going to be the program, colleagues. Then the plan is that on Friday we'll then start to prepare our report, and then we're looking at having to not even to finish on Friday, but just have the base of the issues that we'll have dealt with. When we come back, the 9th of October, we can then proceed to finalize our report. The take that we want to put is that we don't want to have a long inquiry, but you can see that we started in June, on the 15th of June, so it's quite long now. 2017 to date, it's quite a long process. So we need to do it, close it, and then know. Anything that we're going to do, we're going to do it within the law. What does the law say? We're not going to want to do something outside the law. We're going to have to be guided by the laws that governs the activities of Home Affairs. So that's an approach that we're going to take. I see in the program on Friday, there's going to be lunch somewhere. Now, we have agreed on the time allocation that we have put about an hour to deal with the outer, but we'll then allocate them, we said we'll allocate them 20 minutes. Yeah, 20 minutes to make their presentation. And the remaining minutes will be for members to ask questions and clarities. In our engagement as a committee, we have even agreed that who's going to be leading per presentation, right? And then members will then follow. And then I think in that note, we have identified Honorable Gupta, who's going to be leading us around the questions with the outer. So on that note, then we will then have to start, but because we have agreed that anyone who's going to be talking to the portfolio committee this morning is going to be talking to the committee under oath. Legal services is here to help us. We are very far legal services. I expected you here because we have to administer the oath so that we get nothing else but the truth, nothing else but the truth. On that note, thank you very much. Can you come and sit this side? Right now, thank you very much. The presenter name is going to be, who's the presenter? Huh? What is the name? We don't know the name. Eddie, I thought you'll give us the name. Is it Stefan Flick? Rudy Haneke. Rudy Haneke. Rudy Haneke. Let me then quickly. Is it oath or affirmation?
He will choose.
Okay. There are two options, obviously. It will be an oath or affirmation. The oath. So let me first read the rules and of under the powers and privileges and immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislature Act number 4 of 2015, 2004, regulated the swearing in of witnesses appearing before the Portfolio Committee. In particular, it empowers the person presiding in the case of the chairperson, meaning myself, at the inquiry to administer the oath or accept the affirmation from a person appearing before that committee. In other words, the there are two options. I've already spoken about the two options that the witness will be given. Prior to the administration of the oath or affirmation, the chairperson must warn the witness that, now, she or he is required by law to answer all questions fully, truthfully, and satisfactorily. She or he must produce any document that he is required to produce in connection with the subject matter of the inquiry. Notwithstanding the fact that that answer or documents could incriminate him, her, or expose him, her to a criminal, civil proceeding or damage. It is an offense to make any false or misleading statement while under oath. That is now section 17, bracket 2E. The chair must further assure the witness that in terms of section 16.3 of the Powers and Privilege and Immunities Act, any evidence given under oath or affirmation before the committee may not be used against him or her in any court or place outside Parliament, except in the criminal proceeding concerning or charge of prejudice, perjury relating to evidence or documents required in this proceeding. Right? So we read this one. Yes. The chair then may proceed to administer oath of affirmation depending on the choice of the witness. So the choice of the witness has made his choice. The witness repeat after the chair and alter the following oath or affirmation. So you may have to stand up now and what do you raise his right hand?
Raise his right hand.
You raise your right hand. This is for the first time I'm doing this exercise, by the way, but so bear with me. I may want to change it, but nonetheless, it's part of learning in Parliament. You know. You must now, I say your name. Swear that the evidence I shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Swear that the evidence I shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I swear that the evidence that I will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
So raise your right hand and say, so help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you very much. You can sign your document. So it's going to be easy now when I do the next person, right? Now I've learned how this thing is done. Yeah, that's Parliament for you. People think that parliamentarians are not working. Parliament members are working. Now we'll then receive the document back, and then we'll then afford you the opportunity now. There's a document that is being presented, colleagues. I think we're in possession of that document. In the file, you will see that we do have we have the original presentation that we have received, which will then guide us into his presentation. You can move this one. So, Rodi, you can then start with your presentation on the issues. Just take this one.
Good morning, Chair, and thank you very much. Good morning, honorable members. Chair, first of all, I just want to thank the committee for the invitation and the trust that they put into civil organization and specifically ATA to come and to present you with evidence and documentation that we have retrieved from the Gupta mails. I have handed a memory stick to the committee secretary. You will see that there are 3 different folders. The one is the presentation that I'm going to present here. The second folder is about the evidence which I referred to in the presentation. You will see that it is marked just page numbers, and in the presentation I will refer to page whatever we are talking about. The third folder is information, evidence and documentation that we have retrieved from the Gupta mails. You will notice that there are hundreds of documents in that third folder, and I do hope that that will assist the committee in the way forward with this inquiry. If we must stand still at every document that we have retrieved, we will be here for days. But that is for the information for the committee, and I sincerely hope that it will assist you in your path forward with this inquiry. Chair, then, as we were invited, the scope of the invitation, we were asked to present any evidence and documents that we could retrieve regarding the early naturalization of the Gupta family, as well as documents, evidence regarding the working permits and visas of employees of any of the Gupta companies. And that is basically what I will present here today. We've broken it up into a presentation of 5 individuals that were prominent in the investigation. And I hope that by presenting you with evidence on these 5 individuals, that it will assist the committee to go forward. The 6 individuals. The 6 individuals that we will briefly talk about is Minister Malusi Gigaba, Mr. Gideon Cornelius Christians, Mr. Major Kabisi, Mr. Jack Munedi, Mr. Sipiwe Mapumulu, as well as Mr. Ashu Chawa. Then, sir, if we can start off with Minister Malusi Gigaba. Through the mails, we could see that Minister Gigaba was very popular with the Gupta family. He received invitations to different events from the time when he was still the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs. Some of the invitations that we've included for your attention is the Diwali celebrations, FIFA World Cup soccer game, the New Age dinners, the Sun City wedding, the famous Sun City wedding, South African of the Year award. This is just to give some background to show the relationship between the minister and the Gupta family. I must admit that in the Gupta leaks, there is not much evidence or documents related to the minister. What I can share with you is that on 1 April, and please pay attention to the dates and the time period between the dates, that on 1 April, Ndifilani Dombu of the Department of Home Affairs sent Mr. Chala, and I will, the chair introduced or talked about Mr. Chwala. I will also speak about him a bit later, about his role in this, but there was a lot of documentation sent to him, as the chair correctly said. Now, Dombu sent the requirements for early naturalization to Mr. Chwala. That was on 1 April 2015. And then on 30 May 2015, the minister signed the official letter to grant the Gupta family early naturalization. That specific document, page 9 of the bundle, of the evidence bundle, was not retrieved from the Gupta leaks. That was as we retrieved it from a article published in the Huffington Post. So that piece of document, that's the only piece, the only document that we did not retrieve from the mails. In that document, or in that letter, one can see that the decision was made by waiving the residential requirements to grant the early naturalization. In the mails, we also saw that in September 2015, Mr. Chwala wrote to the minister, or he was drafting a letter regarding another motivation for an early naturalization. We don't have any evidence that this reached the minister, but it was to motivate early naturalization for Varun Gupta, Tanvi Gupta, and Kanishk Gupta. It was approved by the minister, I believe, because there's a certificate of naturalization that was issued on the 17th of December 2015. And you will find that on page 11 of the evidence bundle. Throughout the mails, we can see, and not only the mails regarding the matters surrounding Department of Home Affairs, but also other mails that there's a close relationship between Minister Gigaba and the Gupta family. And like I said in the beginning, you know, he was invited to a lot of events that was hosted by the Gupta family. But you will also see a document, and in the big file there is a few more of these documents where people will speak to Mr. Or communicate, correspond with Mr. Chola, and to ask him, can you speak to the minister, can you get this information for us, or we've got a problem regarding immigration, can you use your contacts in this regard and speak to the minister? The only other place where the minister was quite involved was with the deployment of Mr. Christians and Ms. Mujadwiza, if I pronounce it correctly, respectively to New Delhi and to Mumbai. There is, and I will speak about this document a bit later in more detail, but basically came down to the minister that instructed their deployment to New Delhi and Mumbai. Although there wasn't a vacancy, and although there wasn't a post available or no budget for this specific post, he still instructed in that these two persons must be deployed to those stations. Chair, that is basically the evidence that I can present that we retrieved from the Gupta mails regarding Minister Malusi Gigaba. If you can just excuse me for one moment. As per the chair's remarks earlier on, Mr. Gideon Christians was employed at the Department of Home Affairs and was working for quite a while in New Delhi. He started his employment at the Department of Home Affairs in 1997. The document we're referring there to is a curriculum vitae of Mr. Christians that was found in the mails. He was also at the High Commission in New Delhi in India from February 2008 until March 2014. As I said, Minister Gigaba instructed his deployment in October 2015 to go back to New Delhi. Mr. Major Kubisi acknowledged that Mr. Christian's his deployment did not come through the process. And I will, like I said, in more detail, I will explain that later. Mr. Christians was issued with an offer of employment on the 14th of October. And that document will also be in the bundle, in the evidence bundle. Now, from 2011, Mr. Christians had regular correspondence. There was regular correspondence between Mr. Christians and Mr. Ashu Chawa. Some of the examples that I want to show to the committee, like I said, there are hundreds of emails that's there and available for you to scrutinize. I'm just going to highlight some of the correspondence. On the 23rd of September 2011, Mr. Christians sent a coal purchase contract to Mr. Chawa. In November, he also confirmed that he had a meeting with the purchaser, Mr. Tony Gupta, and himself, where he was involved in that meeting. And it seems like there was quite familiar, that they were quite familiar with each other, Mr. Christians, Mr. Chwala, and Mr. Tony Gupta. On the 11th of June, Mr. Chwala asked Mr. Christians to finalize his family's visas by, and I quote, tomorrow in the mail. And this was the first of many requests to expedite visas for Mr. Chola. Examples, the 20th of June 2013, Mr. Chola requested 8 more visas for the, and I quote again, the TV guys. On the 21st of June, Mr. Christians assisted Mr. Chola to write a motivation letter for a multi-business visa for Tanvi Gupta. And in that correspondence that you will see there on page 43 of the bundle, Mr. Chola outright states that he intends to use the Sahara letterhead to facilitate this false business visa. And I think seeing that Mr. Christians will also testify later at the committee, the verification of these mails can be required from him, and what it meant and what was the reaction thereon. Then on the 17th of July 2013, Mr. Chola asked Mr. Christians to get him a visa, and I quote, today, because they are launching a TV stations and that he might request some more visas in a couple of days. Mr. Chola thanks Mr. Christians in these mails for all his continuous support. On the 8th of August, Mr. Chola sent Christians a selection of Mini Coopers for sale in South Africa, and this is just going down by date chronologically. This was very strange to us. We never got any evidence that a car or something was bought for Mr. Christians, but it was quite interesting to see. And like I said, the reasons for these emails are unclear, but due to the nature of the relationship, it can constitute to a form of quid pro quo, and that he was rewarded for his assistance. But that is also something that Mr. Christians will be able to verify. On the 13th of August 2013, Mr. Chola sent 2 mails and requested help for more visas. I quote from that mails where he said to Mr. Christians, "Brother, please help me, brother, one more." That also showed on the relationship between the two individuals. And then the pleasantries in the mails stopped, and it was like, business. I send you the names and the passport numbers, and you send me the visas. There are quite a few mails that you will see that there's just names and passport numbers, and the subject matter will be visas. Something interesting where Mr. Christians was also involved with was on the 15th of February 2015. Chola forwarded a email chain and request assistance to remove a travel ban for one Anant Sarkaria. You will find that on page 50 to 52 of the evidence bundle. This request came from an in-between person, Mr. Abhinav Shukla, on behalf of Sarkaria. Mr. Shukla states in his mail he was instructed by Tony Gupta to seek Chola's assistance, and Mr. Chola requested Mr. Christians to assist him with this. This again shows on the relationship between third parties, outsiders, and the Gupta family, and the requests that came through to Department of Home Affairs officials. Then in December 2014, Mr. Chola sent Christians 4 Dubai visas. We do believe that these visas was for Christians' family, and it looks like that the Guptas paid for these visas. Something that I can add here, what's not in the slide, is that we found a lot of visas that were especially Mr. Chola through Sahara got for persons. They paid for it, and they issued, they issued these visas for traveling to the individuals. I can, from the top of my head, think about Mr. Dan Mancha, Mr. Duduzane Zuma, a lot of people that the Guptas, in the form of Mr. Chola, got these visas for these people, individuals, to travel. Chair, the next person I just want to talk about briefly is Mr. Major Kubisi. At the time, he was the Director of Foreign Office Coordination and Support. And it looks like he would assist Mr. Chola whenever problems arose with visa applications. He would also reprimand staff to act swiftly when there was a request from Mr. Chola, and there's emails to that effect in the bundle, page 58 to 61. He was also a music director, and he would forward some of his music to Mr. Chola and not up front and directly asked, but it looks like he wanted it to be screened on ANN7. Coming back to the mail where Mr. Christians and the other person, Ms. Munyadziwa, was deployed to New Delhi and Mumbai. This specific mail went past Mr. Kubisi, and he clearly states there, after he was made aware of the fact there is no budget, there is no vacancy, there is someone in the post, he made it clear that I'm just here to carry out the minister's instructions, and that we must deploy these persons ASAP. This deployment of the two individuals was this. You will see that this email chain started off from the Ministry of Home Affairs. Mr. Siyamtanda Skota gave the instruction, and it was Mr. Kubise who instructed that this instruction must be implemented in a very short space of time. In the bundle, evidence bundle, you will also find a summary of the foreign missions budget, page 63 and 64. And if we look at the deployment of Christians and Munyadziwa, we can see that this will cost more or less 1.1 million rand per annum for each of the deployments. That's salary as well as other perks. We must also keep in mind that there was no vacancies available, and this expense puts an extra burden on not only the Department of Home Affairs, but also on the taxpayer. The next person that we want to talk about with the committee and the honorable members is Mr. Jack Munedi. Mr. Munedi was a chief director of permits. In the last bundle, you will see that there are a substantial number of requests, waiver requests that were sent to Mr. Munedi. In the bundle, the evidence bundle that you have, we have only put in a few because otherwise the bundle will get too thick. But in the third folder, as I explained earlier this morning, you can find a lot of these requests. Now, a waiver is issued when a successful application was made to change requirements for a permanent work visa, but I'm sure that the committee members and the officials from the Department of Home Affairs will be able to expand on this and to explain exactly what the waiver means. But it is a long list of requirements that one must execute and provide to the department. But Mr. Jack Munedi was in the position to waive a lot of these requirements. It looks like from our own investigations, and we were asking people to guide us on this, that it takes approximately 8 months to get a permanent work permit. But it looks like Mr. Munedi organized that Mr. Chola's requests were handled in a shorter period of time. For this work, Mr. Munedi was rewarded with invites to the Sun City wedding, as well as to the launch of ANN7, the TV station, and the proof therefore is on page 69 and 70 of the evidence bundle. One interesting person that we came across in the investigations is Mr. Siphiwe Mapumulu. You will see there's a very short description on what is happening here. Basically, Mr. Mapumulu, I don't know exactly where he was stationed at the Department of Home Affairs, but Mr. Chwala requested him for special treatment at OR Tambo International Airport for the department to provide a separate immigration counter for the wedding guests. I do not know if this is standard practice, and I'm sure that officials from the department will be able to shed more light on that. Mr. Mapumulu replied on the mail and noted that he has considered and said that he noted and considered the matter, and he replied, "We are public service providers and we care." Mr. Mapumulu was also rewarded on the same day with an invite to the Sun City wedding. That happened on, if I remember correctly, the 19th of April 2014, about 2 weeks before the wedding took place. Then the last person, Chair, that I briefly want to speak about, Mr. Ashu Chawa. I heard that the Chair said that he was the CEO of SARA. I think Mr. Chawa was in a lot of positions at SARA and in the Gupta Group. Sometimes it was referred to as the COO, the CEO. He was a director on a few of the Gupta companies. But nevertheless, Mr. Chawa was, in our point of view, the post office for the Gupta Group. Nothing went to somebody or from somebody if it didn't go through Mr. Chola. And I think that is also the reason why there are so many mails and documents in the Gupta leaks. I will come to that just after or I'm sure that I will give an explanation just after the presentation regarding the Gupta leaks. Nevertheless, Mr. Chowa he received South African citizenship by way of naturalization on 9 November 2011. The certificate is also included in the evidence bundle. He handled all the correspondence with the Department of Home Affairs on behalf of the Gupta family and Gupta employees. Honorable members, Chair, that is why you will see that the third folder that I gave you on the memory stick contains hundreds of mails coming from Mr. Chwala responding. Just a remark, when we looked at the mails, he's a person that will start working in the morning around about 4 o'clock and he will go to bed around about 12 o'clock at night. And he will handle each and every mail, not only the Department of Home Affairs, but all mails. And you can think how wide the Gupta group were in business. This is a man that really worked hard. I think he replied and really looked into 300 to 400 mails a day. So yes, let's just carry on. On 28 February 2011, the Department of Trade and Industry informs Mr. Chwala that you must look at your labor market and where you get your people from to work at some of the Gupta companies. Because Mr. Chwala at that time, he applied for corporate permits for companies, Sahara Computer, Sahara Holdings, Shiva Uranium, JIC Mining, and the New Age Media. Notwithstanding the warning from DTI, Mr. Chwala proceeded to apply for work permits and waivers for people working for the Gupta Group. Just to come back to that, Chair, I cannot stress enough that the number of mails that we went through, I think that there's approximately 400,000 mails in the Gupta leaks. But it was not only mails, there was also a lot of documentation. regarding the Gupta companies, share certificates, normal stuff for any business like leave forms, resignation letters, etc., etc. What we have tried to do, like I said before, is all Department of Home Affairs correspondence to put it together for you in on the memory stick that I've provided. What has OUTA done with all this information? Last year, we, in a short period of time, of about a month after we received the Gupta mails, we compiled a report, No Room to Hide a President Caught in the Act, that we submitted to Parliament, to the Speaker of Parliament, August last year, sorry, June last year. And we have also laid criminal complaints regarding this specific investigation on Department of Home Affairs, and I think that the committee is in possession of our criminal complaint as well as the annexes thereto. Chair, and that is in a nutshell that we can present to you. Like I said, if we had to discuss each and every piece of evidence, we will be sitting here for weeks. Once again, thank you for the opportunity and the trust that you show towards the organization Undoing Tax Abuse. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I will take it that from the committee section, Mr. Matonsi, the memoristic of that of those emails. Somehow I will have to deal with the approach because we do have some of the information, but what is important for us here is the affidavit that was then deposited on these emails when you opened your criminal case. Is it possible you can tell us the case number that you have opened? Is it possible?
Chair,
and then where was the case open, maybe, before I give you the...
Chair, I do not have the case number right at hand now. I will present the Secretary with the information just after this presentation. The case was opened in Brooklyn. I do know we followed up regularly on all the cases that we have opened. If I remember correctly, this specific case was combined with another case, which the Hawks are attending to at this stage, and that the combination of the cases they are investigating on. I will give you the details as well as the spokesperson that we speak to at the Hawks, his contact details for you to verify. Thank you, Chair.
Maybe you can talk to us about the nature of the case. Is that, how do you categorize the case? What is the case? Is it fraud, it's corruption, what is it? Is it leak emails, what is the case?
Chair, it is a pity that Advocate Fick is not here to present you with the details of the case. She made the affidavit. But it basically came down to the fraudulent way in which people received and got their visas as well as work permits and the waivers thereof. Like I said, the affidavit spells it out. I didn't prepare exactly on the contents thereof.
But did you make Home Affairs aware that you have opened such case?
Chair, I'm not sure if Advocate Fick, our legal department, told Home Affairs that we've opened the case. I'm not sure.
Okay, that's fine. Honorable Gumede.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. And thank you to Mr. Heineke for the performance of your patriotic duty. But before we get into the questions, I've got into other questions. I've got questions to you and to the legal advisor of Parliament. But first, let us go to the legal advisor of Parliament. The legal advisor, my question to the legal advisor is, what is the admissibility of leaked documents, particularly the leaked emails?
You've put, I thought you'll ask him rather than the legal advisor, our legal advisor, because this is our weapon. So but nonetheless, you may speak, but I thought the question would be addressed to. No, that's fine. Let's, but I thought that part of what we would have done, would have taken the question directly to him, the
Okay.
person that has emailed. So if you expose our weapon here, our weapon will not be able to help you. Yeah. Maybe that question comes to you directly. You may have to respond to this question. It's a very important question of the status of these emails now, the legal status of these emails, having to use them as evidence before this parliament, before this committee of parliament.
Yes, and in fact, related to that is the authenticity of the emails. How was it established? How can we say that definitely this was communication between the different actors as in your affidavit? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Chair, regarding the admissibility and if the committee will and can be able to use the leaked mails as presented by us, I must say I'm also not a legal advisor. We present this evidence that we obtained to the committee, and I think it will be good for the committee to get a legal opinion on that. I am not privy, I think, at liberty to give an opinion on that, to say you can use it or you cannot use it. Regarding the authenticity thereof, let's start, go back to 29 May 2017. I was handed at that stage I was doing investigations for OUTA. I was handed the mails by our CEO, Mr. Wayne Divenage. He didn't reveal to me where he received it. He just, I think if you remember correctly, a week or two before that, the first media articles were published with the contents of the mails as the subject. I received that. What we did is to contract a reputable information technology company to establish their opinion of the mails. They conveyed to us that they found it as authentic. I do not have a report or any other evidence than oral evidence to tell you that they told us that it was authentic. I think what's more important, like I said before, the number of mails that we received or that was on that hard drive is thousands and thousands and thousands of mails. The committee here has got witnesses that they called that can verify the mails, and I think that will be up to the committee, the chair and the honourable members, with advice from the legal advisor, if they can show the mails to the witness and ask the witness, did you send this mail or not? And that will take everything a huge step forward regarding authenticity. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Heineke. Now let us go to page 5 of the affidavit from OUTA by Stephanie Fick. You know Mr. Stephanie Fick?
Chair, yes, I know Ms. Stephanie Fick. She's the head of the legal department in OUTA.
In paragraph 5 of his affidavit, he says, amongst the Gupta emails were evidence of misconduct on the part of Malusi Nkanyezi, Gigaba, Rahesh Tony Gupta, Ashu Chawla and Gideon Cornelius Christians that constitutes crimes of corruption and fraud. My question is, what is this evidence?
Chair, the evidence I'm sure that Ms. Vick talked about here is part of the affidavit, all the annexes in the affidavit, and that is the evidence obtained. We did not go any further or outside the mails at that stage. So through the rest of the affidavit, all the annexes annexed to the affidavit will be the evidence on which it was based.
Maybe just a follow-up, in your earlier presentation, you make mention that you did not find much around the minister other than the invites to soccer, whatever activities that are listed here. Other than what we have just said, is there any other thing, any other email that we can be made aware of, or any meeting where the Minister of Home Affairs, with the, in particular with the link, rather than the invites, the link with these particular individuals that are in the affidavit? Do we have any evidence that we can look at?
Chair, all the evidence we have on this matter is contained either in this affidavit of Advocate Vick or in the presentation that I made under oath.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Let us go to paragraph 19 of the affidavit from your legal advisor. It says, on or about the 12th of February 2015, Chawla sent Christians the passport of the various Gupta family members. It would seem that Christians may have assisted to facilitate the immigration of the Gupta family to South Africa. At the very least, it demonstrates improper influence by the Gupta family on the Department of Home Affairs. The email and its attachments are annexed here to Annexure SF-16. Let us leave the annexure and ask first, have you established this now as fact, or it still seems it is still an allegation? Because we cannot go deeper into improper conduct without facts. We cannot use allegations or what seems. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Chair, no, we have not established anything as facts. We can just present what we presented to the committee as well as to the law enforcement agencies. I do not think that it is OUTA's business to establish the facts. That's up to the law enforcement agencies, the National Prosecuting Authority, and the courts. We can just provide evidence and information as we have it.
Honorable Gupta, can we allow maybe any member that want to contribute? We know that we are led by Honorable Gupta here. Is there any further follow-up that members want to make? I'll take from the line of Hussein, Finland, and then Kekana. I'll just take the three hands quickly. You can then prepare yourself for the next round, Honorable Gupta, if there's any. We still have, we don't have much time. We left with about 7 minutes. Okay, you can come in, Hussein.
Chair, thank you very much.
Speak to the mic, yeah?
Yeah, I'll try and get as close as possible. Mr. Heineke, thank you very much for the information you shared with us. I just want to ask you, you've obviously been through these hundreds and thousands of emails, studying each and every one of them very carefully. Have you come across any information anywhere in those emails that suggest any meetings could have taken place or proposed to take place between Minister Gigaba and any other member of the Gupta family? did you find any information that links Minister Gugaba directly to a meeting with any member of the Gupta family?
Thank you, Honourable Member. Chair, to give you a very direct answer, no, we have not found evidence or a mail that say that Mr. Gigaba was directly involved with a meeting with one of these people, one of the family members. What I must say in the same breath is that I am sure that we have not gone through all of the mails. It is just a hectic task. We do have a program that was written for us to make searches for specific mails and specific items and specific people easier. But one must remember that I'm going to use an example. We will write Van Rooyen in a specific way, and we spell it a specific way. It's a surname, it cannot be spelled any other way. But in the Gupta mails, it was spelled at the end with an A-N and plus, instead of an E-N. So, you know, it is difficult, and I hope that I will answer the honourable member's question with this, to know everything that's in the mails. The mails have been, the Hawks as well as the Zondo Commission do have access, and I'm sure that they will conduct into further investigations into the mails.
Thank you very much, Chair. If I can just quickly raise one other question. That's fine.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning to the presenter. Chairperson, I just wanted a clarity because one of my questions has been asked. The person who did the affidavit, what was the reason that she's not here? And the clarity about the case number, because I think that information that we're looking for, we were supposed to get it from this person. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. The reason why Advocate Fick is not here, I cannot elaborate on that. I was instructed by the management of, or the CEO of ATA to do the presentation today. And like I said, I do have the case number and the information with me. I just don't have it at hand now, and I will provide it to the committee afterwards, or to the committee secretary.
You want to repeat yourself again?
Okay.
Huh? Okay, are you fine? Kekana. Other hands were not up, colleagues. We have agreed that I'll take only 3. Oh. Now, we're now getting more hands now, and we're going to sit for more than an hour now. But that's fine. Just brief to the point.
Thank
brief
you,
to
Chair.
the point. I'll still give you.
Thank you very much,
Khalid
Mr.
here.
Hineg. I just want you to confirm, did the minister attended all the events you have mentioned, and other people who were invited in other events of the Guptas? I thank you.
Okay. Don't respond now. Mam Khalid?
In your presentation, you mentioned that some of the emails, or rather some of the information, it was reported on the Huffington Post, and that talks about the requirement. It was a requirement for a waiver for who in the Gupta family?
Raputi, that's the last one now.
Yeah.
Then we can give Kundudon to have the
Yeah,
last bite, and then we close this matter.
I've been asking myself a lot of questions. Just wanted to check what.
Speak to the mic, Mama. Speak to the mic.
What mandates you, or what empowers you to invade one's privacy? Is it not the invasion of privacy? That is what I wanted to check. I thank you.
All right. Mr. Gumet, the last lap, please, so that you will then respond, and then maybe as you do that, you may want to share with the committee again the source of these emails. Did you have them as copies, or did you have a hard drive somehow? Maybe you may want to share that in line with I think that point that the honorable member has just raised. Honorable Gumet. The last one.
Thank you. In fact, because this affidavit is based on the emails and relevant emails out of the thousands you count. That is because you are giving evidence here. It is part of your evidence, right? So that is why I concentrate on this affidavit, because it is the crystallization of all the emails that you have. That is my assumption. And then secondly, I think as Parliament, we've got to depend on evidence, on fact, and the truth. That's why we make you swear. So really, on paragraph 22, for instance, you say that the apparent close relationship between Christians, Gigaba, Chawla, and Tony Gupta should be investigated, as it appears from the evidence above that Chawla and Tony Gupta didn't have to follow prescribed procedure and receive preferential treatment from government officials. I agree with that it should be investigated. But the next sentence says, it also appears that Tony Gupta may have had the ability to influence decisions taken by Gigaba, and the reason therefore should be properly investigated. This is not fact, it is a suspicion. And the reward to Christians. Who rewarded Christians by what? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. If I can... Thank you, Chair. If I can start off with the question around the events. We only found the invites. I cannot confirm if the minister did participate or if he showed up at those events. We just find the invites. Then the question regarding the letter found in the Huffington Post, if I can just read what the 2 lines there. The minister saying that I have decided by virtue of powers vested in me of section 59A of the South African Citizens Amendment Act of 2010 to waive the residential requirements in regards to your application for naturalization and grant you early naturalization. That was the letter that was written to Mr. A.K. Gupta and his family regarding the application for early naturalization. Chair, regarding privacy and if we invade somebody's privacy, I do not know, I don't believe so. These mails were is also in the public domain. It was published by, I believe it was Amabungane a while ago for 10 days. So all these mails, or they made available the mails to the public, so it is in the public domain. Then regarding the last question of Honorable Gumede, Honorable and Chair, one must take into consideration when you make an affidavit to lay a criminal complaint. I'm not talking about a criminal charge here, it's a criminal complaint. You alert the legal authorities to investigate something, and you can have a suspicion that can be investigated that can lead to evidence and to guilty or not guilty finding. What we have seen, and I think it's difficult for me to respond with regards to somebody else's affidavit, but what I can say is that this affidavit, or some things in this affidavit, because if we look at paragraph 23, the conduct on the part of Tony Gupta, Chawla, and Christians constitutes not a crime of corruption. Now, I think it was the previous one that you were referring to, about the relationship between the parties. If one look at with a wider lens to what we have obtained from the mails, I think one must keep it in mind when you make a suggestion or a suspicion like this, if it is aired, because it is not only related to this specific matter, but if you look at in a wider spectrum, you can see that there was good relationship between different parties, and that the Guptas tried to influence some high-ranking members and executives. Thank you, Chair.
I think we have come to the end of the. There's a question we did not answer.
I think that I did answer. It was related to the Huffington Post's, the letter that was published in the Huffington Post that I said that did not come from the mails, and the waiver of the residential requirements. Is that correct, Honourable Member? Yes, that is just an extract. I read the letter here, an extract, one of the reasons, it looks like, one of the reasons why the Minister granted the early naturalization. Chair, and then, if I may, my colleague just handed me the case number. If I can give this to the committee. It was a case, a Brooklyn-Pretoria case, with case number 892/09/2017. 892/09 of 2017.
No, thank you very much for sharing with the Committee of Parliament. This information of yours, as I said in my opening, that you made a submission to the Speaker's office, and this submission was then referred to the Portfolio Committee of Home Affairs to look at. In fact, this is what ignited this inquiry that we are dealing with currently now. On that note, generally, the committee will elaborate further on the issues that are raised in your affidavit, and together with the emails that have been extracted from whoever that has had an opportunity to have got them. Then we'll then look at the admissibility of such information as a committee now, because what we are doing with this inquiry is that we're going to be holding the officials together with the executive accountable to some of these actions that have been highlighted. So what is important will be for us to make sure that we establish proper facts and the status of the email, so that we don't end up putting officials under a situation where the admissibility of that information is really not there, right? So, but we want to appreciate the fact that you have shed a light with us, and they want to release you now. And then in future, obviously, if there's going to be any other follow-up that this committee will need, we'll communicate with you and the organization. It was going to be good to have your key people, especially the people that open the case, even to be able to brief us. What is the status, how far is that case, and what's happening with that. We have a particular interest, by the way, because we want to make sure that the government discharge its duties without favoring anyone else, but fairly making sure that the citizens get proper service. Where there are criminal element or corruption, it's the responsibility again of this parliament to raise those issues and to make proper recommendations. We are not a disciplinary committee. We are a committee of parliament that is meant to do oversight over the department. And I think we have exercised our constitutional power today to invite people to appear before this committee, because in the powers that are bestowed in parliament, committees can invite anyone. And we really want to appreciate that this invite was not a wasted invite, because you have shed the light with this portfolio committee, and we are happy about that. So we are now formally released under oath now. You can say anything you want to say to anyone, but we are now formally released. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair, and once again, thank you for the opportunity, and be assured, Chair, that From Alta's side, we will fully cooperate if there's any more information that the committee need or clarity on any of the information. We are more than willing to help. Our doors are always open to assist. Thank you.
Very much. Okay, colleagues, we don't want to waste much time. I know that I saw the MEC from the Northwest is around. Can we prepare the MEC to come in so that we don't waste time together with this department? No, 2 minutes break will come, not now. Ne? For now, you're still fresh. You just had your breakfast. We only had 30 minutes. So I'll give you after the Northwest, we can have a 10-minute stretch. Around here, no one goes outside the venue. Okay, no, that's fine. Yeah. Thank you very much, members again. Let's. Why they're not using this desk here? Oh, they don't have a presentation. We now have the Department of Education and Sports in the Northwest, from the Northwest. I was checking with the committee section if there's any presentation that you have prepared. We have sent you a list of questions that we wanted you to respond to those questions. And there are two things that we may want to, we'll get a guide from you. You'll tell us how you want to deal with the issues that we have asked you questions. I think we are in the position again of the committee report that we have given to yourself, and I think the MEC has a copy of our committee report. We're going to get a guide again from you who's going to be speaking. And we'll take it obvious from the MEC that they will then talk to us. But the point I wanted to make, MEC, is that we have to administer an oath or affirmation for anyone who's going to be speaking in the committee, so that the person tells this portfolio committee the truth, but nothing else but the truth. It's very important, because this inquiry will have to, at the end of the day, make some recommendations, and those recommendations are going to be binding to those that will be found somehow wanting in the process. So we'll take a guide from you, MEC. I think the issues you are aware of, maybe just to recap, that, and this issue that we are dealing with is not much of a legal requirement by law, that the donations that goes to schools will then form part of your naturalization or early naturalization. But this is cited because part of the naturalization of the Gupta family, such information was used as a motivation. We haven't received that information that there were Gupta-related companies that donated to 75 schools in the Northwest Province. Earlier, when we were dealing with phase 1 of the engagement of this inquiry, we make an announcement that we wanted to invite the Premier of the Northwest, then Premier Maoma Pelu, to come and clarify such matters. But later we then get to learn that he has now taken the early retirement. And the only person who's going to help us to navigate these issues that we want clarity on is the MEC of the department, together with the accounting office of the department, so as to help us understand this relationship between the Gupta family and the Gupta companies with your department and the schools in the Northwest. So it's on those bases that you are here this morning, to clarify such relationships or such donations that you have with the Gupta family or the Gupta-related companies in the Northwest. We did dispatch a team of researchers from Parliament that went to the Northwest, and a number of schools were engaged around that particular phase, which is phase 1 of our inquiry. This is phase 2 now. Therefore, the information that was received was that quite very few schools have confirmed to have somehow interacted with the Gupta-related companies around the design of the wedding invitation. You know that there was a wedding that took place in your province of the Northwest, and most of the schools that were engaged confirmed that it was around the issue of the wedding. The school that, or individual that has designed a better invite then won a particular prize. But you work there, you know this area, you'll be able to share with us. So on that note, therefore, MEC Nekare will then take a tune from you, and then we'll then get the person who's going to speak, and the one who's going to speak, obviously. There are 2 options that I'll give you. There may be your input that you want to speak, which will be just a general input as the MEC, and then have either your accounting officer or whoever that can then speak on the core issues that we want under oath. So the choice is yours, obviously, at that level. You'll guide us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Chauge. I think my proposal will be the MEC will make an input on a form of an overview, and the HOD sitting next to me, she will give a report.
Hold on. No, thank you very much. I think we can then proceed. I think the HOD will then have to take an oath by the time when she comes to when we come to that point. So we can proceed with your overview, MEC Lekhari, which colleagues will note the issues.
Thank you
No,
again.
on that one it's fine. There's going to only one person will take an oath, and it's going to be the accounting officer of the department. The MEC, who is the political head, will just give a political overview on the issues.
Thank you very much again, Honorable Chairperson of the portfolio, Honorable Chauke. I'm sorry I'm not sitting next to the HOD because of this table is not comfortable. There are no space for me to put my document, but thank you very much for allowing me to sit here. Chairperson of the portfolio on Home Affairs, Honorable Tomani Patrick Chauke, honorable members of the portfolio committee on Home Affairs, officials from the portfolio of Home Affairs, head of the department from education and sport development in our province, Ms. M. Simaswe, officials from the portfolio committee who accompany us here. Good morning, honorables. Honorable Chairperson, before I present an overview of the department in this matter, I must mention that I'm accompanied by the head of the department here who's going to speak on our behalf, our Chief Director for District Coordination where this thing happens, the Director in the Office of the HOD, the Director in the Office of the MEC, Acting Director for Bujanala where this thing also happened, and Acting Director Legal Services and our Parliamentalizing Officer as our support staff. Let me also announce, Honorable Chairperson in absentia, Mr. J.N.T. Muthala, our administrator. As you all know, that the Cabinet has taken a decision to place our department under administration in terms of Section 101B of the Constitution. He was introduced on the 11th of July 2018 by the Basic Education Minister, Honorable Angie Motsega, and he assumed duty with immediate effect. Honorable Chairperson, I'm also honored and humbled to appear before the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs today. I appreciate the opportunity to come and give a direct oral account around allegations that a number of schools in our province benefited from Oak Bay Investment Pty Ltd. It is my considered view that the presentation that we are going to make will augment all the written reports we have submitted as per the direction of this August House, and perhaps be able to guide this August House to arrive at the most informed decision about this very inquiry. From the onset, Honorable Chairperson, to submit our immense apologies for the delay in responding to your initial letter dated 25 April 2018, which was, though to have been sent to the head of the department, but did not reach her as it was emailed to a wrong address. However, we immediately acted on it and made an inquiry as soon as it was sent again to my office on the 31st May 2018. In the same wavelength, Honorable Chairperson, let me appreciate the efforts by this August House to bring to our attention the list of schools that had allegedly received donations from Oak Bay Investment Pty Ltd and other companies linked to the Gupta family. Honorable Chairperson, let me hasten to say our investigations as the department has revealed that there has been contact with some of the schools in the province with Oak Bay Investment. Pty Ltd, and those conduct were in relation to the wedding card designing competition for the Gupta family, whereby some prizes were awarded to the winning schools or learners, not as donations. Now, the HOD will elaborate more on that matter. Before we delve into details, allow me, Honourable Chairperson, to indicate that our investigation into the matter revealed the following three significant shortfalls on the original list of the schools that had allegedly benefited from the above-mentioned company. Number one, 4 out of the said 77 schools are unknown to us and do not appear on our departmental school database or from our records. 2, 4 of the said 77 schools no longer exist as they were merged as a result of the implementation of the rationalizations of schools in the province. And 3, 1 school on the list duplicates, that means it appeared twice. It is on this basis that we deem it fit and reasonable to give account of the matter at hand based on the remaining 68 schools on the list, not 77. The details in this regard will be presented by the HOD when she gives a technical or comprehensive report after I've given my overview. Honourable Chairperson, I must admit, as a department, we were not aware of the visit by Oak Bay Investment Pty Ltd to our schools. Subsequent to receipt of your letter dated 31st of May 2018, the director of the affected district, who is sitting on my left here, is the acting director for Bujanal, was called for a meeting with the department, corporate officials, and the MEC for the purpose of verification and probing into interaction with the Gupta family, in particular Oak Bay Investment Company. The district director was accompanied by his sub-district managers, second managers. Honourable Chairperson, I must reiterate that the department has never interacted with the principal per se, but only through the second offices, sub-district offices, and the district offices. The acting director for the district and second managers and sub-district are the one who contacted the principals. Following the interaction that I have just alluded to, I can with certainty confirm that this company secretly gained access to our province and quietly identified schools in and around Rustenburg and Muskotani in Bujanala without the involvement of the department at any of its administrative levels except the principals. Now, in terms of our procedure in the department, the HOD will also allude our policy, how do we do things. When we enter the province, we must via the head office. And in terms of administration, the head office is led by the HOD. You will be given a letter now to go to schools or district. So this thing never happened as far as this company is concerned. They tricked our unsuspecting school principals into thinking that their learners, and by extension their schools, were participating in a drawing competition. It is interesting to note, Honourable Chairperson or Honourable Members, that this competition and resultant donations coincided with preparations for the Gupta wedding, which was held in Sun City on the 4th of May 2013. Another striking aspect is the choice of the location of schools that benefited. The majority of them were situated in areas around Sun City. To be specific, 22 of the alleged schools out of 76 are in Rustenburg municipality, and other 31 schools out of 77 in Muskotani municipality. And remember, Sun City is closer to Muskotani and Rustenburg. And that adds up to a total of 3 schools out of the 77, which are in the vicinity and within the same radius of Sun City. This is how it happened. All schools that received the donations reported that an unknown agent visited their schools with an offer for individual schools to enter a drawing competition of a wedding invitation card to the Gupta wedding, and the winners were announced at the special event, which was held at the Sundown Range Hotel next to Sun City on the 3rd of May 2013, a day before the marriage, if my memory serves me well. A few days prior to the event of prize winning, the participating schools received a consignment of drawing material to do the said invitation cards. And then I believe those cards were used to invite people for the wedding. So they go to a school, they ask learners to design a card, invitation card, and the best design card were used to invite people to the marriage. But I never attended that marriage. Honorable Chairperson, it emerged during the inquiry that what were issued at the pre-wedding session on the 3rd May 2018 were not necessarily donations in a true sense of the word. In actual fact, Oak Bay Investment gave the participant a token of appreciation for their effort in designing a wedding card for the Gupta family. It was not a donation in our assessments, as far as we know what is a donation is as the department. Honorable members, our report reveals that only 33 of the 68 schools that we can account for have received the alleged donation from the said company, not 68. The so-called donations varied from monetary prizes ranging from 10,000 to 15,000 and a variety of sports and recreation equipment, keys, soccer keys, balls, and so forth. We take this experience as an eye-opener since we became aware of it by the time the portfolio wrote a letter to the HOD and subsequent to me. We then realized that no, there is a challenge in terms of how things are happening in the department as far as principals are concerned. Some principals are more decision makers. They forget that there is a circuit, there is a sub-district, there is a district, and there is a head office. Since we became aware of it, we are now more vigilant than ever. We have taken this issue of the so-called donation serious, and went even step further. We have recently discovered that besides this Bujana interaction with the Gupta family, in particular Oak Bay Investment Company, the district director was accompanied by his sub-district man. I have mentioned that one. We have discovered after this information for the Gupta in Bujana that, again in our province, 73 schools in Dr. Kenneth Kaunda district have benefited Wi-Fi connection from a certain Halalela telecommunication company without prior knowledge of education authorities. But for now, we are not sure either whether this Halalela technology communication is linked to the Gupta family. We have to verify that. But it's happening there. We got the information from the director in that district without our information as the province. We are investigating this matter and we request the portfolio committee to push for intensified investigation. Without casting any criticism, Chairperson, we have learned a very important lesson from Oak Bay Investment's so-called donation in schools, to the effect that we should train our school principals. They are trained, or we must remind them, if I can use a simple word, we must remind them not to be easily tricked by people who appear to be good at the expense of our innocent and unexpecting learners. To demonstrate our commitment, we have called a meeting with SGP chairperson and school principals of those 68 in Bujana and 73 in Kenneth Kaunda that allegedly benefited from Oak Bay Investment and other Gupta linked companies on Friday, the 14th September 2018 in Bujanala. We have to also include the 73 schools from Dr. Kenneth Kaunda district in that meeting, so that we must further go deeper in this matter. We never have an engagement with the principals. So Friday, we are going to do that. The primary objective of this meeting and others in future will be to mobilize a campaign on awareness around issues of financial management and good governance. We will also issue a circular that cautions principals, in particular, not to receive any donation without the approval of the HOD or her delegate. We want them to be alert and be more vigilant than ever. Finally, Honorable Chairperson, before I hand over to the HOD, we will also include we will also include donations to schools as an agenda item in our next general meeting with all SGB chairpersons and school principals. Chairperson, let me pause here and allow the HOD to give a comprehensive report before the portfolio. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
No, thank you very much, MEC. It was more like, I thought it was going to be a paragraph, but it went in detail, and I'll take it that because some of the issues that you have raised will require, some kind of questions from our side and all of that. I'll take it that the HOD will be able to further elaborate on those issues. I'll take it because he was not under oath, but he has elaborated more detail on the issues. So before you can speak, is there a document that you have circulated for record? Do you have a document that is ready for circulation? HOD.
Honorable Chair, we have not circulated any document for record.
So for record, are we going to hold you for record purpose? Is it the printed document you're going to read on?
I do have a printed document that I'm going to read on and supporting documents, the main document and the supporting documents.
Are we going to be able to note the issues? But we'll definitely request that that information must be made available in black and white.
We will do so, Honorable
In black and
Chair.
white. So before, yeah, sorry, Ms. Khalib.
Even the presentation of the MEC, if you can get it.
So you'll then make available that it was a very valuable information, MEC, that you have presented to us. So I think we'll then get the copy of that. Before you start, we have to administer oath or affirmation. So I'll have to read for you. You can prepare yourself now to take an oath because we want to get the truth, nothing else but the truth today now. Let me start with this step. Okay. Let me start with the guide for the oath and the legal stature of that oath, so that it's not just an oath out of vain, but I want to refer you to Section 16 of the Powers and Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislature Act number 4 of 2004 that regulate the swearing in of witnesses appearing before a committee of Parliament. In particular, it empowers the person presiding, meaning that myself as the chair of this meeting, at the inquiry to administer the oath or to accept affirmation from a person appearing before the committee that happens to be yourself. In other words, these are two options. There are two options, as I've said, that it's an oath or an affirmation. Prior to the administration of the oath or affirmation, the chairperson must warn the witness, right? We're now warning you now. He or she is required by law to answer all questions fully, truthfully, and satisfactorily. He or she must produce any document that is required to produce in connection with the subject matter of the inquiry, notwithstanding the fact that that answer or documents could incriminate him or her or expose him or her to a criminal or civil proceeding or damage. It is an offense to make any false or misleading statement while under oath. The chair must further assure that the witness that in terms of section 16(3) of the Powers and Privilege and Amenities Act, any evidence given under oath or affirmation before the committee may not be used against he or her in any court or place outside Parliament, except in the criminal proceeding concerning a charge of perjury relating to evidence or documents required in this proceeding. The chair then may proceed to administer the oath or affirmation depending on the choice of the witness. So are you going to take an oath or affirmation?
Affirmation, Honorable Chair.
The witness will then read after me. I, you then state your name. You can stand up, you can stand up, you can stand up. Yeah.
I, Stefina Mamoto Semaswe,
Swear that I solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
solemnly declare and sincerely declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I so affirm.
I so affirm.
Thank you very much. You can then sign the document. It must come here before you speak. I must make sure that you have signed. Then proceed. Who's leading us with this one from the committee?
I am chairperson.
Okay.
I thought you had said the HOD would say something.
No,
but
I'm
then,
saying who's leading us. That was the question because we've allocated questions to members. HOD, you can then proceed with your presentation. And colleagues will then have to know, because we don't have a document, we'll receive the document after the presentation.
Can I proceed, Honorable Chair? Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, Honorable MEC. The report that I'm going to present refers to the account of our schools in the Bojanala district that are alleged to have received donations from Oak Bay Investments. As the MEC has given a broad outlay or background to how the events are unfolded, I will be giving the specifics where I should give. In terms of the list that we received from Parliament, there were about 77 schools that were identified to have received donations from Oak Bay Pty Ltd. Actually, there were 76 schools. The number was 77 because there was a duplication. Of the 76 schools that received, only 33 benefited in the form of sports equipment and monetary prizes. The monetary prizes that the schools received are hereby attached as Annexure B, and a list of all the schools that are alleged to have benefited will be attached as Annexure A. The remaining 44 schools from the list did not benefit a thing. The prizes ranged from 1,000 for the learners that won the competition up to 15,000. The prices were for both learners and the schools. Bojanala districts is divided into 5 local municipalities. And from those municipalities, Madibeng did not benefit anything. Rustenburg, of the 22 schools, only 16 benefited. Moretele local municipality, there isn't any school that benefited. Moses Kotane, as the MEC has already alluded to that fact, is the local municipality that benefited more from the alleged donations, because this local municipality is the one where Sun City is located. The last local municipality in Bojana is Ketling, and it did not benefit anything. Now I'll explain how the process of the competition has unfolded. A letter was dispatched to the schools that are listed on the 15th of April 2013 in the letterhead of Sundown Ranch Sports Academy. This letter was written directly to principals of schools introducing a competition to them. The specifications are very much detailed in that letter to say the rules of the competitions are written in that letter, the prices are indicated, who actually has to participate and who gets what. This letter is dated 15 April 2013 and is addressed to the all principals of the listed schools. A follow-up invitation letter that was dated the 30th of April reminded the principals of that drawing competition, and it indicated clearly the theme of the card that was required to be drawn by the learners. This card was supposed to be either a well-wishing card, congratulations, or a wedding card. So the second document here is that invitation of the principals. It bears letterhead of JIC Mining Services, West Don Investment. Another letterhead that appears on the invitation is that of Sundown Ranch Sports Academy, and the last one is Platinum Group Medals. The last attachment here that also reminded principals is an email that was addressed to all the listed schools in that area, where Sundown Ranch Sports Academy was reminding the principals of the JIC Mining Wedding Card competition and function at the Sundown Ranch Hotel on Tuesday, the 30th of May 2018. So this was the function where those gifts were going to be given to the learners and the schools. As the MEC has said, these were tokens of appreciation after the schools have participated in that competition of drawing a card for the wedding. Now, as a department, we were not aware of this until the Parliament wrote to myself and later to the Honorable MEC in terms of looking for the details of those affected schools. That's when we got aware of what happened in that area. Upon following up, we found that schools interacted with the companies directly without the involvement of the department. What happens in the department when a company, institution, or organization wants to donate or to fund or any form of interaction with our schools is that they report first to the head of the department, who then gives permission for interaction. All projects, programs that are done by external bodies with our schools are then coordinated at the level of a Deputy Director General responsible for institutional management, governance, and support in our schools. We do have a list of all companies that are either donating or funding activities in our schools, which is located in the office of the Deputy Director General. after permission is being given by the head of the department. I can say with honesty that these companies that are alleged to have done this competition with our schools did so without the permission of the head of the department. I will pause here, Honorable Chair, because the MEC has given a broad outline of what really happened. I don't want to repeat what the MEC has
Don't
already
ambush me, because the point I made earlier was that the MEC has gone very detailed again, right? And you have on record now, under oath now, I want you to repeat. If you have it there, please just repeat it for the sake of making sure that it is recorded under oath. If I knew, I would have put the MEC under oath from the start. You know, so you have to go through that, that detail.
The following is the schools which benefited from the competition. The first school is Manamakota Secondary, which is in Moses Kotane and has benefited the following: balls, hula hoops, cones, sports ribs, whistles, bean bags, mini soccer set, 1,000 rand cash for Elena, who won the competition. The second school is Rio Leboge Special from Moses Kotane. It received sets of beeps, hula hoops, cones, bean bag, mini soccer set, 1,000 cash for prize for Elena, who won the competition. The next school is Burita Primary in Moses Kotane. They were given a packet of crayons, A4 papers which are colored, pencils, spade, fork, rake, 1,000 cash prize for the Elena, who won the competition. Bakhofa Primary School in Moses Kotane won wheelbarrow, spade, rake, garden fork, hose pipe, 1,000 cash for the Elena, who won the competition. Ratao Primary in Moses Kotane won soccer balls, soccer beads, netball, plastic whistle, double action pump, club bag, small cones, medium cones, goal set, hula hoops, and bean bag. Itumelen Secondary School was given hula hoops, cones, 1,000 cash prize for Lena, who won the competition. Tsoidi Secondary School, cones, balls, double action pump, whistle, boxes of A4 papers, hand covers, glitters, pens, glue. So Primary, only 1,000 cash for the Lena, who won the competition. Mperebere, only 1,000 cash prize for the Lena, who won the competition. Tswara Udire, soccer balls, green net balls, pink balls, kid bags, red cones, yellow beeps, blue beeps, inflating pump, hula hoops, big orange cones, small cones. Temoho Special, also in Moses Kotane, hula hoop, soccer balls, netball, cones, 3,000 for 2 learners who won the competition. Kwenatlase, also in Moses Kotane local municipality, hula hoops, Nike traveling bag only. Tirimane Secondary School, soccer kit, netball kit, soccer balls, netball. Ramokoka, also in Moses Kotane, mini soccer balls, soccer cones, hula hoops, rugby balls. Modisa Secondary, soccer balls, netballs, volleyballs, sports ribs, cones, hula hoops, 1,000 cash for Elena, who won the competition. Bubuanja, in Rustenburg now, local municipality, soccer balls, netball, volleyball, sports ribs, cones, hula hoops, and 1,000 cash prize for Elena, who won the competition. Rauane Sepeng in Rustenburg local municipality, soccer balls, netball, volleyball, sports ribs, cones, hula hoops, and 1,000 cash for Elena, who won the competition. Tete Secondary School in Rustenburg, soccer balls, netball, volleyball, sports ribs, cones, hula hoops, and 1,000 cash for Elena, who won the competition. Luca in Rustenburg, soccer balls, netballs, volleyball, sports ribs, cones, hula hoops, 1,000 cash for prize for Elena, who won the competition. Ramosi, also in Rustenburg, soccer balls, netball, volleyball, sports ribs, cones, hula hoops, 1,000 cash for the Elena, who won the competition. Mafenya Secondary School in Rustenburg, soccer balls, netball, volleyball, sports ribs, cones, hula hoops, and 1,000 rand cash. Tumahole in Rustenburg, same as the schools in Rustenburg. Mohono in Rustenburg also, same as the schools I've mentioned in Rustenburg. Kayele 2, same as the schools that I have mentioned. LD Matsago in Rustenburg, also same as the schools I've mentioned in Rustenburg. Saron, which is also in Rustenburg, the same as the schools in Rustenburg. Matale in Rustenburg, the same as those schools. Butibelo in Rustenburg, the same items as I've mentioned. Moremogolo in Rustenburg, same items. Chaneng in Rustenburg, there's a difference here. In Chaneng, only 2 classrooms were painted by the company. In Rasimoni, which is also a school in Rustenburg, soccer balls, netball, volleyball, sports beeps, cones, hula hoops, 1,000 cash prize for a learner who won the competition. And Bafokeng in Rustenburg as well, there's a difference here. The winner, the overall winner came from Bafokeng and won 10,000 rand and 5,000 rand for the teacher of the learner. Soccer balls, netballs, volleyballs, sports rips, cones, and hula hoops. Morongwa Primary School in Moses Kotane, soccer balls, netballs, volleyballs, sports rips, cones, hula hoops, 1,000 cash prize for Elena who won the competition. Lerome Secondary Schools, also in Moses Kotane, the same as the schools that I have mentioned to have benefited. Now I'm going to read the schools that did not benefit, but they were appearing on the list. The following schools did not benefit: Odi Primary in Madibeng, Teboho Primary Madibeng, Molelwanem Primary Madibeng, Mpupute, Moses Kotane. Tapi Primary is unknown to us. Charora Primary in Rustenburg, Mpela, Moses Kotane Makuka, Moses Kotane Nkobo, Moses Kotane Rapurele, Moses Kotane Hautimi, Moses Kotane Somankana, Moses Kotane Kamanyane, Moses Kotane Kwenatlase, Moses Kotane Ramoroko, Moses Kotane Hauputlake, Moses Kotane Bathalero, Moses Kotane. Komsi Primary is a private institution. Offense Primary is in Moses Kotane, Malefo in Moses Kotane, Monsama is a primary, Moses Kotane. Redi Behe is unknown to us. Rantlaga Middle is in Moses Kotane. Maroshong is unknown to us. Mulusi Primary, Moses Kotane, Rakoko, Moses Kotane, Mavis Kroll, Moses Kotane, Moetlo, Moses Kotane, Semesa, Moses Kotane. Hoba Kwambo Hosi Primary is closed. Ahongisi Primary is in Moses Kotane. St. Anne's Moses Kotane Molotlehi is in Rustenburg. Ketedi Secondary is unknown to us. Kale Primary in Rustenburg. Ruben Monareng is in Rustenburg. Bosabo Sele Rustenburg. Reatile is in Rustenburg but is closed. Bakhatla Primary is in Moses Kotane. It is also closed. Mudisa Secondary is in Moses Kotane. And the last school is Tidimane, which is also in Moses Kotane. These are the schools that did not benefit from those tokens of appreciation. I will pause, Honorable Chair.
Is there anything that in the input MEC that you have not covered? Anything critical that you think is not covered under oath? Reporting MEC.
I think, Honorable Chair, what I may not have covered is that the Parliament wrote to me as the head of the department. Unfortunately, I did not receive the email because of the wrong email address. I only became aware of the correspondence after it was received by the MEC, and the MEC referred it to me as the head of the department, and we then worked on the information that was required by Parliament, and we sent it back. Thereafter, we started on our own trying to find out what really happened. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Can we then start with the questions?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I would like to firstly acknowledge, pardon? Oh, thanks, Chairperson. I would like to acknowledge the presence of the Minister and the Deputy Minister, the MEC and his entourage, honorable members. I think, Chairperson, what I would like to find out first is that once one acknowledges the great concern which has come out following the discovery of what this Oak Bay company has actually done in the province in the northwest, one actually is surprised that none of this was ever picked up as early as it should have been. Noting that the department actually should be working with people on the ground. Where were your ground soldiers? Who are the people that are supposed to be giving you such type of information so that you should have known as soon as possible that Oak Bay was busy doing this so-called social investment? I think also the HOD informed us about different companies that needed different issues. I think one needed a card, one needed a gateway, whatever cards they were, but it was different companies, and all those companies actually Gupta companies. Can I just ask a question just for the sake of asking? Because, you know, we also get the impression that at times if you scratch my back, I scratch yours too. Do those companies which you mentioned, HOD, stand to benefit, or are they benefiting from any tenders within the Department of Education or even the broader sector of the provincial government?
Mama,
There
Mama,
was a,
sorry, I want us to focus on the task
I
at
know.
hand,
I know.
on the issue. I don't want us to get to tenders now. Maybe let's zoom into the presentation on donation.
Okay,
right?
sir,
That
okay.
must be the focus. The
The-
tenders, will deal with them somewhere,
Okay.
not today.
There were schools which you mentioned which received donations. And some of the schools actually said they were given these sign-up papers where they need to acknowledge that they have received those donations. And some of them were stating that they did not receive those donations. How come that actually did happen? Because if people have even been given papers to sign for the donations, and then they say that they did not sign, it's surprising. There's a principal in one of the schools who actually said that I think they received so many laptops and whatever, and then he said he never signed for them. It was somebody who signed on his behalf. Now, that is actually surprising. I think there are many issues which one would like to ask, but then noting the number of schools which we were given, or which are known to have been the schools that received the prices, I think it was the 76 schools. And then later you discover that there were 68. And then out of those, and then there were 33, and then out of those, the actual schools that received the prices were even lesser. And yet, you know, one would then say that it's surprising that some of your officials, it could have been deputy directors, were actually present when some of those donations were given. And then lastly, Chairperson, on my questions, I would like to find out about the Department of Home Affairs, which accompanied some of your officials when they were going to those schools to go and check on these social investments. They were actually checking deliberately so that they could find out what the Guptas or this Oak Bay had actually donated. Now, that is quite problematic to us because it means that, is that how things are done in the province? Do people get, or companies get preferential treatment to an extent that even Home Affairs is actually taken into those institutions by the education department to go and check on all those donations? And if that has happened, how much of it has happened? How many companies have actually benefited from such, and where people have actually gone to go and check on those issues? Thank you, Chair.
Maybe before you respond, colleagues, do you have any follow-up that you want to make? So that we'll then take them. Just note the questions and comments that were made. And I don't want us to lose sight. You must always refer to the report, right? Refer to the report. There are still questions that are there. You can even refer to the file of the Oak Bay application, where they talk of where they talk of feeding schemes and all of that. I think these are some of the issues that we have to highlight in this engagement. Let me start with the hands that are up first. I'll give Mkhalipi first, followed by Kekana, Mamdambuza, Finland, and then Hussein, and then that will be the last hand, ma'am. Okay, you can start quickly. One question per person,
Thank you very
please.
much, Chairperson. Thank you very much, MSC and HOD and the Entourage for your presentation. It's very clear, Chairperson. But one question that I need specific answer on OD primary school, because you mentioned that OD primary school never benefited. Yet we have a document that is signed by the principal. Do you confirm Morokana TP as a deputy principal of the school? And have you verified the signature if it was forged? Because we have a document officially here in front of this portfolio committee that was signed by the principal acknowledging receiving a donation. And subsequent to that, Chairperson, when we started this process, Chair, our staff members have tried to get hold of the schools, and then we were told that there was an official of the Department of Home Affairs who went to visit school recently. Can you also tell us the name of that official from the Department of Affairs? Thank you, Chair.
Don't forget that we're not.
Whether is she took it as a competition or donation. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Mine is the issue of the computers as well as the paintings. As the HOD has confirmed that only 2 schools that were painted. But I want to know, because in terms of the cost, in terms of the cost, does the HOD think that painting could amount to that 8,000 that is confirmed on the letter that has been written? And then in the computers, there's also a letter that is confirming the receipt of the computers. So what is her opinion on that one? Because there's a letter and then no computers were received. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Firstly, Chair, I just want a clarity because there is a school that we've got here, Tebuko Primary School. I think it was mentioned that they didn't get anything, but we've got evidence that they did get something. There was an event. If you can clarify that one. And then second issue, I just want to find out from the head of department if this stuff is fraudulent or there's a criminal element. Is there any disciplinary procedures that will take place for those principals? Because I also find out there is a SGB and the administration staff in the schools. They're supposed to be involved in such a stuff like this. If they find out something like prima facie, is there any procedures of disciplinary that will be taken over? Thank you.
Hussein.
Yeah, Chair, thank you very much. Thank you, firstly. I think the information you provided to us is critically important. You obviously went to the very depth of investigating the information that was provided to you in your province, and I do appreciate that. And why this thing is significantly important is that in their application for citizenship, the Gupta family used this so-called social responsibility program in your province as a means to justify why their citizenship should be granted under exceptional circumstances. That was their main motivating factor. And of course, you now have investigated this and find that most or a lot of them just state categorically that the information that we have received and the Home Affairs Department has received, based on that motivation that the Guptas supplied to Home Affairs and to the Minister, for reasons being exceptional circumstances. In your view, is that investment that they made in your province, given what you have found, exceptional in those circumstances?
Merabuti.
Thank you very much, the MEC and the HOD, for your presentation. HOD, you stated in your presentation that the Deputy Director Generals must be involved for this kind of donation. And I just wanted to check, you don't have any protocols from your department in receiving that kind of donation. And really, when you equate the responsibility of the Deputy Director General to 10,000 donation, is it really important? What are the roles of the district leaders on such donation? I think you must have some protocols in place on what kind of the donation the Deputy Director General. The Deputy Director General is your deputy. So why should they be involved on the 10,000? 10,000 donation. I really don't really understand. Please, just assist us. I thank you.
Okay. Because it's going to be only yourself who's going to speak, right? Because the other ones that are there, they can just write you a small piece. It's up to them. But because you are under oath when. But generally, it's about the policy of the department around the issue of donations. Do you have a policy in place and all of that? So respond to the questions, and then we then come back maybe to the last round as we sort of about to close this issue. You can then respond on the questions that you have noted.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The first question here was as to why we did not pick up this issue on the so-called donations early enough. We did not pick this early enough because we do have circuit managers, sub-district managers, district directors, just like that up to head office level. So up to head office level, it was very difficult for us to receive, to pick up this matter early enough. We do confess we were unable to pick it early enough. However, during our inquiries after we were made aware by Parliament about this matter, we started inquiring as to what really happened, why we did not get this matter early enough. So we are getting responses even as we speak, and we will consolidate all the responses that we are getting so that we know exactly what happened and what action we need to take from there going forward. Different companies. Let me explain that Oak Bay Investments, we learned that these companies of JIC Mining, and we understood at a later stage that JIC Mining is somehow related to Oak Bay. What we have in terms of proof is the letter, documents with the letterhead of Sundown Range Sports Academy. But then, even their stamps are here in that letter. So they are the ones that were communicating on behalf of these alleged companies with our own schools. Now, JIC Mining Services has got a record of a working relationship with the province because our province is a mining province. And this Sundown Ranch is in the vicinity of Sun City. So my understanding is that whoever was coordinating this whole thing might have taken an advantage of the proximity of those schools with Sun City, the relationship that was existing between our province and the mining houses, because we are a mining province. We don't have anything documentary that bears the letterhead of Oak Bay. The documents that we are having so far, we don't know as when we investigate further. Those that we are having at the moment have got letterheads, yeah, JIC Mining Services and Sundown Ranch Sports Academy. But Sports Academy was very clear that they are doing this on behalf of JIC Mining. And they communicated directly with our schools. Signing of papers, e.g. receipt of laptops. We've got this protocol in our schools that each and everything that gets delivered, when you sign off the delivery note, the person who is delivering must also make an entry in a logbook at the level of a school. So that is a protocol. However, it might happen that some principals may not make an entry in the logbook. I cannot confirm that all of them made that kind of an entry in the logbook. But it is common knowledge to all our principals that anything that is delivered in the school, you must sign the delivery note and you must also make an entry in the logbook of a school. That is known by all principals and all officials in the department. We have discovered when we started engaging with our schools after receiving a letter from Parliament that yes, when the officials of the Home Affairs visited our schools doing their inquiries, they vied some of our sub-district offices just to let them know they are going to our schools. This also is not how we do things as the department. Anyone who goes to our schools, as I've said earlier, must get permission from the head of the department. It's then that you can access our school. Whether you are a company, you are an individual, you are an institution, you have to get permission to access our schools. However, at the level of the district director, in small issues, is also delegated by the head of the department to give such permission, but in consultation with the head of the department. With the question of Odi Primary School and other schools, I want to make the Honorable House aware that this thing has happened quite a number of years ago, 2013, 2014. Some of the schools have changed principals. Odi is one of the schools that have changed principals in that. There was initially a certain Mr. Ndlovu who was followed by Mr. Ntlatleng, and currently it is Mr. Mudipa. So I cannot tell with certainty who did what at the moment. However, as the department, we have decided to say, even after this, we are going to fully investigate this matter to come to the conclusion, to know exactly who did what and what really happened. And the necessary steps, if need be, will then follow. We have the reference of the 745318 and his cell number when he contacted the schools making an appointment.
Just leave the cell phone number, you'll give it to us private.
Okay.
Because everybody's going to call him and ask him.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I suspect it cannot be Mavusa, I'll take it.
Okay.
It will be someone else.
Okay.
Please.
I can confirm that what the MEC has said in terms of whether there were donations or tokens of appreciations, I can confirm that those were not donations but tokens of appreciation. Even the communication that I'm having in my hand there can bear testimony to that. This was a drawing competition and it indicated that the prizes that was going to be won. The communication also invited principals and learners to a lunch where the prizes were going to be given. And somewhere they wrote sports equipment donation, but when you read the invitation as written, this is a token of appreciation after having participated in the competition for a card drawing. This card, the learners were either to draw a card for a well-wishing message or for congratulatory message for the wedding, or a wedding card in general. Those were the categories which were given to the learners. So after taking part in that competition, then a lunch was thrown and the learners and the principals were invited to that lunch, and those tokens of appreciation were given to the learners and the teachers and the schools. So where we are seated as the department, it is a token of appreciation. And only 2 classrooms were painted at Chaneng, and not 2 schools. 2 classrooms were painted, not 2 schools. But it is alleged that 4 classrooms were painted. To the best of our knowledge, only 2 and not 4 classrooms. It's not even schools, we're talking classrooms. The issue of computers received or not received, I have indicated earlier that anything that is received by a school, the entry must be made in the logbook. That is an official document in a school to acknowledge receipt of anything that is delivered at our school. So at the moment, we'll investigate further as to what really happened. Same applies to Temoho, honorable member. We'll investigate further. Yes, after our thorough investigation, should we find that we have officials and principals who contravened any of our policies, obviously action will be taken. The honorable MEC has already indicated that we have called a meeting of all principals and SGB chairpersons of the affected schools to a meeting on Friday, and we are going to address this matter accordingly. And our officials, as we speak, are also already busy trying to find out more information for us. So this matter will not be left lying low. We are going to continue with it and see to its conclusion. Honorable members, at the moment, we are not aware of any social responsibility by the Oak Bay Company or the Gupta family in our schools. All that we know of is that competition where our learners participated to draw a card for the wedding. But as for any other social responsibility, we are not aware of at the moment. However, should there be any such thing upon our further investigation, we will indicate to Parliament.
Well, we have not made it possible for you to see this letter. I think we may want to have a copy and give it to the MEC later, General. The letter that was written by Oak Bay as part of the request for early naturalization, they state 2 things about the schools in the Northwest, right? Is this so-called a donation of of a value of about all that equipment, it's valued at about R1 million. And then the other one that they talked about, is there any feeding scheme that you know in any of your school that is supported by Oak Bay? You may want to talk on because these are the two things that are really coming out, meaning that the value of the 75 schools that they have either donated, it's at the value of 1 million. And then the kitchen soup, well, we don't see the value, maybe it's added again, the value of the kitchen soup. The feeding scheme, school feeding scheme. You may want to talk if there's any knowledge about the feeding scheme. And maybe if you round up all that donation, does it value to, its value comes to R1 million? No, that's fine. No. On the basis that you are proceeding with your questions, and I want this question to be noted.
Honorable Chair, in terms of the value, I think it can be calculated because we know exactly which schools have benefited and those items that the schools have benefited, it can be calculated. But at the moment, we cannot say it adds up to R1 million. But in terms of the number of schools that benefited and the items, I think it can be calculated.
Okay.
At the moment, we are not aware of any feeding scheme from Oak Bay, unless there's a company that works with it. But at the moment, we are not aware of any such feeding scheme by Oak Bay. Remember, even we are not, as I've said, we are not aware of any feeding scheme by Oak Bay. However, remember, earlier on, I clarified the issue of the relationship of companies. The documents that we are having are not written Oak Bay, but it's JIC Mining, it's Sundown Range, and we might not have known before that they are aligned to Oak Bay. Now, I'm just being informed by my colleagues here now that there's a company called Tiger Brands that runs a feeding school in one of our schools around Bapo area. Bapo, it's Tiger Brand. So we do not know as to whether this Tiger Brand is linked or not linked. So that is, at the moment, the company that we are aware is assisting us in terms of feeding schemes. As for the relationship, at the moment, we do not know.
So do you know anything about the lunch packs that get given to your schools from Oak Bay? Lunch packs that, including the KFC, Kentucky, and all of that? Sometimes they're given Kentucky at your schools, and the kids appreciate this kind of lunches and all of that.
As I've said, Honorable Member, we do not know at the moment, we are not aware, but all these things, we are taking note of them, we'll go and verify.
Okay. All right, no, that's fine. That's fine. You wanted to say something? I see the gentleman was sitting with you there.
The last thing is to explain the protocols.
Oh, okay. Yes, please explain them so that for record we are very
The
clear.
point of coordination, as I've said, resides in the Office of the Deputy Director General, responsible for institutional management, governance, and support to schools. Point of coordination. Now, in the district, there is a DCES, responsible for projects and programs, who reports to the district director. So it's kind of a structure. From head office, it goes down up to the level of the district. So when somebody wants to do business or to interact with the department, if this person reports to the district, he or she will be shown the relevant person to report to. It's a DCES, and the DCES will report to the district director. The district director will then take up the matter up to the DDG, who will then discuss the matter with the head of the department. That's how it works. We do have a protocol in that nature. So it's not that the Deputy Director General works with all the schools in the province. That's the point of coordination and where responsibility in terms of delegations resides.
Okay, Mama, but now, in fact, now I'm going to make this letter, especially now that you're going to be meeting with the schools, principals. I'm going to give you the copy of this letter. There's a line there in that letter that read that many of the kids told us that the meal we are providing is for the first time they eat Kentucky Fried Chicken. This is in the letter that is written to the Minister of Home Affairs in motivating for the early naturalization, that these kids are giving them a feedback that this is for the first time they eat a Kentucky, right? So I'm saying that, you know, these matters are so serious that, you know, it cannot be that even our kids, because they come from poor families, and I know that the state does intervene with your, you know, the meals that we are providing to our kids, because the state understands the plight of, especially in the rural areas. But to a point that a company went as far as saying that they, for the first time, these kids eat Kentucky. And they are happy because Oak Bay is giving them Kentucky Fried Chicken for the first time. They taste Kentucky. You know, look, I don't want to get angry now, but it's something that I think you must deal with it as you deal with the schools there to really ascertain if this is true. And then the fact is that in areas where we are not able to reach out, I think your department has that responsibility to make sure that you are reaching out with the feeding scheme that government provide, rather than, you know, our people to be led around the issues of Kentucky's and all of that. It's a very, very, you know, worrying factor if we are not able to reach to our children to that extent. But we'll investigate this. I'm happy that you have sort of given us the view of your understanding of the role and the that Oak Bay played with regard to donation in your schools. It's clear that we're not dealing with the donation, we're dealing with the competition that was meant to design the wedding invite and the vote of thanks or whatever, something like that, around the wedding, which took place in Sun City, and we now understand that it's mostly the schools around Sun City that participated in that particular competition, right? So on that note, I want to thank you very much, HOD, to be on record on these issues under oath, and we really appreciate that you have shared with the committee what we tried to really achieve at some point, you know. If we'll have met earlier, we would not have called you because we'll have clarified all of these issues, but because of, you know, the challenges of our communication and having to end up with this meeting. And the intention was that if you're not going to receive the last invite, we're going to issue you with summons. We're going to summon you together with the MEC to appear before the committee. But thank you very much, and we are off record now, and thank you very much. Then MEC, we want to appreciate the leadership, fair and open input that you have shared with the committee. You do not want to dilly-dally or try and hide anything. I think you are very much open about the understanding of these issues. The committee at the end of the day will then determine, you know, based on the information that you have shared. And especially having now to learn that as we're doing this exercise, the department took an interest to go to the province again and try to verify this information. I don't know at what point does the department verify if someone apply for early naturalization, and then the department will then go there down the line, 2 years down the line, and then rush to go and verify. But the department will explain themselves when we deal with them in that particular area. But thank you very much, ma'am. We really appreciate, and your delegation travel back safe home, and then we'll be interacting again soon. If there's anything that you can pick up as you address the teachers, please don't hesitate to communicate with us, because we need to finalize these matters as a matter of urgent too. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, MEC, and the delegation.
Very much, Chair.
Okay. Colleagues, we want to have a 10-minute stretch. Okay, let's do some small stretch and then we'll come back in 10 minutes. There's water there. Kungena bani after here? Kungena bani after here? That's fine, that's fine. No, we, okay. Colleagues, members, we were just busy consulting, that's why we took some time with the department with regards to the next presenter who's going to come. And you'll know that in our program, we're expecting to have Mr. McKay, who's the DDG responsible for immigration. Yesterday, as we closed the meeting after the allocation of members to areas of focus, an arrangement was then made to the department via the Parliamentalizing SAM with the document with a set of questions that we wanted these individuals to speak on. I just learned now that they were not made aware of the questions and they were ready to speak out of cuff without documents. I've consulted with members now, and I think we're agreeing that what we should do is to allow these officials to go back and look at the questions properly again as individuals, because we're not going to have one submission of a department. Each official is going to speak. Those that we have identified, they're going to speak for themselves. Right? So we want to allow them an opportunity to go and look at these issues proper and prepare a written response. The response must be in writing to the questions. We will then convene at 4 o'clock today in the afternoon to proceed with Mr. McKay. He has just been made aware now that he did not have a sight of the document, and only, I think, at the level of the DG and the team, it's clear that maybe either they did not meet to prepare themselves before they come here. So, because we know that we have set up this day for them and tomorrow, we'll then adjourn this meeting and convene at 4 o'clock to give them time to respond to these questions. It's in line with their operation, so there's nothing outside that a person will say, I don't know, this question is difficult. This is in relation to the work that they do every day, right? So we'll give them until 4 o'clock, and then we'll convene at 4. Meantime, I will then interact with the chair of chairs to deal with that arrangement, and then, but definitely 4 o'clock, we'll then proceed with our meeting McKay, Mkize, and the other two officials that we have mentioned in the document, who happen to be Christian and Kobisa. Skakane, yes. So these are people that will have to come in, and each one of them will give them the same, about 20 minutes, and then members, I think, because we're dealing not with the code, what's called a document that is still going to come, which we have, that is going to be presented either by a minister or the DG will be guided when we come to that point. So that's where we are. That's what I propose that we do. I think from the morning we have done very well so far with the first presenter. I think we're able to understand the issue of the emails and the content, therefore, and part of that has helped us to be where we are now. So can we therefore agree, colleagues, that we can adjourn until 4 o'clock? I see a hand, Honorable Hossein.
Chair, thank you. I'm in agreement with your proposal. I just want to raise just one issue, please, on that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
If we can just get perhaps a response from the officials that when we reconvene at 4 o'clock, that they will be in a position to be able to answer these questions, so we don't end up in a situation where they come back and say the time was insufficient. If we can get a response from them, thank you.
Thank you very much, Hussein. Maybe I can ask the accounting officer who's here, is the Director General, because you are leading this team. Can you respond to that question?
So, Chair, if I understand the question very well, is that we need to provide that particular information in writing before the 4 o'clock deadline? Yes, no, we'll definitely ensure that we email it to the Secretary of the committee by before 4 o'clock, so that members can be finished with the document.
Now, on that note, therefore, the lunch is arranged for 1 o'clock, colleagues. You can spend time going through, or if you have any other engagement, you can go and deal with that, but you can just refer back to your documents, spend time just to look at your documents, because the phase that we are going to get into is the most critical phase of this inquiry. And so we don't want, that's why we must be thorough in what we do. If we're to hold you accountable, we must make sure that we do that within the law and we understand your role and functions. So I don't want us to create any confusion moving forward. On that note, this meeting is adjourned for now until we meet at 4. Thank you.